Welcome to Who Yelling Now, Season 5, Episode 8, titled We Call It Strength. Copyright Mackenzie. Hello, good people. Today's word is strength. Interesting word. Parents tell grieving children to be strong. Friends tell hurting friends to be strong. Entire communities survive impossible things, and we admire them because they are strong. But I wonder, what exactly are we calling strength? Because life has taught me something. People will tell you to be emotionally strong. Very few people teach you how. Instead, they help you pack whatever they think you will need. This is so-called strength. They all aid in packing your emotional luggage. Family pack things, friends pack things, society pack things, culture pack things. Good intention pack things we all have heard before. Don't cry. Push through. Work harder. Don't complain. You should take care of everyone. Girls, stay busy. You have always handled things. You're the strong one. And slowly, we begin carrying luggage. We never unpacked ourselves. We never packed it truly ourselves. We believe one day we will need these things. Believing this luggage will make us strong. But what happens when life finally arrives and asks us to open it? Here is a poem I call It Happened. It happened as I said it did, as I wish it would, as I hoped it could. It happened as I fantasized, as I dreamt, as I made goals, as I forgot. It happened during hurricanes, in sunshine, in rain, in overwhelming heat and cold. It happened during sadness, during loneliness and pain, during funerals and births. It happened while impoverished in wealth, in joy and happiness, while confused, insane and sane. It happened as I said it did. I grew, I learned, I blossomed. I happened. I became me. One of the things I realized while becoming me is that people rarely hand you emotional tools. Mostly, they hand you emotional luggage. And sometimes the two look the same. Here's this week's story. I call it Ava's luggage. There was a young woman called Ava. People admire Ava. Dependable, reliable, the strong one. If life broke, call Ava. If someone needed help, call Ava. If responsibility arrived, Ava carried it. She carried expectations, family worries, other people's disappointments and responsibilities. Nobody asked her to hold, yet she somehow took it on. It became hers. People praised her. You're strong. You always handle everything. Slowly, without realizing, Ava built an identity around Carrie. One day, a friend begged her, "Come with me." "No." "Come on. I have responsibilities." "Come. I have work." "Come with me. It's just a 30-day small international village retreat. Quiet, simple, far from everything familiar. I need you to come with me." Eventually, Ava agreed. When she arrived, she unpacked carefully, like she always did. She unpacked productivity, control, people pleasing, overthinking, achievements, hyper independence. She unpacked caring everyone else first. She unpacked usefulness. She unpacked being needed. And something strange happened. Nothing fit. The village asked different things from her: patience, stillness, presence, adaptation, rest, listening. The strengths she had unpacked, the strengths she packed, suddenly felt unusable. And she panicked, because when your strengths stop working, you discover whether they were strengths at all. Days pass, then weeks. One afternoon, an older woman sitting near Ava asked quietly, "Baby, why do you carry yourself like someone afraid to put things down?" Ava laughed, but later, alone, she cried. Then she wept, because for the first time, she realized something. All her life, she was told to be emotionally strong, yet no one truly taught her how. Families try, friends try, communities try. They give you pieces of themselves. Take this. This helped me survive through some hard times. Carry this. Oh, girl, you're going to need this. Keep this. You're going to be okay as long as you do this. And your emotional luggage grows heavier. Good intentions, inherited survival habits, silence, responsibility, endurance, performance, fear, strength, as other people defined it. But life asks different questions. And eventually, Ava understood endurance and adaptation are not the same thing. Endurance says, carry it longer. Adaptation asks, does this still belong with me? So Ava emptied the luggage, not to repack it, to stop carrying what no longer belonged there. When she returned home, people noticed. "You seem lighter. You seem different, girl. You seem stronger." Ava smiled, because for the first time, they were right. She had not discovered emotional strength. She had discovered emotional fortitude, not the ability to carry everything, the ability to face what arrived without becoming destroyed by it. That examination of strength, of identity, of inherited silence made me excited about today's guest, Serena Rohr, author of Unbound, yoga therapist, teacher, a woman whose work explores identity, healing, visibility, and what happens when people reclaim ownership of their own story. Serena grew up balancing generational expectation, identity, and inherited silence. Her work asks difficult questions, questions many of us avoid. What belongs to me? What belongs to my family? What survival tool still serves me? And what have I mistaken for strength? Today, Serena joins us on Who Yelling Now as a new yeller. Serena, introduce yourself to my yellers.
Wow. Hello. Thank you so much. What a beautiful story. You just told my story. And Ava's story is my story, as
Wow.
it is maybe a lot of people's stories. Oof. Thank you so much, Olga. This has been very powerful. I love the words that you used. I love the emotional luggage, the turning into emotional fortitude, which definitely I carried this backpack of emotional luggage my whole life. And thank you for articulating it so beautifully in that story.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I try. I read through your book Unbound, and I realized we actually have a good deal of things in common. So writing the story for this week was actually quite interesting and fun.
Thank you.
You're
thank
welcome.
You so much.
So Serena, people often admire resilience without asking what created the need for resilience in the first place. Have we romanticized survival?
Oof, definitely. I do believe resilience is powerful. I definitely have cultivated resilience in my life. And I love that question. Why did I need to cultivate it in the first place? And resilience to me is that emotional fortitude that you're speaking of in that story, in Ava's story. And for my whole life, for me, for example, resilience came early. I had to learn to suck it up. I had to learn to feel misunderstood very early on. I come from a mixed cultural background, where my Indian father and my Chinese mother, they didn't have too much in common. And then, of course, me being born to immigrant parents in the Western world, I again did not have too much in common with them. And so the misunderstanding that lived within the culture gaps that were created, that were naturally there, forced me to become resilient. And the resilience took shape in a way that at a very young age, I became very, like you said, hyper independent. I learned to take care of myself. I learned to try to understand the situation myself. I didn't have a lot of support. And, writing my book, it was interesting because I looked back and I thought, wow, I spent a lot of time alone in my head and really thinking about things that I was a walking head for most of my life. And I thought my way through life. And this, instead of feeling my way, I am a feeler by nature. And so that actually is what created the resilience, because I felt that I was feeling so much, but I couldn't really make sense of it. And there was no one really there to help me walk me through that. And I really didn't have a lot of outlets where I could just express myself. And when I did express myself, it sort of fell on deaf ears, or I felt misunderstood or dismissed in some ways. And it was not until, I'm 52 this year, it wasn't really 50 years later that I realized, like, oh, I'm carrying this emotional baggage, the struggle, the conditioning, this is the definition of strength, as you say.
Right,
And
right.
that I had really forced myself in as an adult, forced relationships, forced careers, forced living and staying in a place that didn't quite feel aligned. And I had coined that term in my book, immigrant. So when you're talking about this strength and what is that, to me, the immigrant was what pushed me forward. And what I realized 50 years later was that was not the true definition of strength. To me, I really had to sit back, take a step back, drop the luggage, the emotional
Yes.
luggage that had been filled by so many other people other than myself, and start to use my immigrant to turn towards an aligned path and use it, all the resilience that I had cultivated, use that immigrant, use that resilience for my path to walk, keep putting one foot in front of the other on my own path, despite feeling misunderstood, because I still was, despite not feeling that supported on my path, despite not having, again, anybody really holding my hand. When you're the cycle breaker, it's a lonely path.
Definitely. I know for a fact, speaking on behalf of people whose luggage has been filled with culture. You opening your luggage ready for the world, and you have the culture of your moms in there, the culture of your dads, and the culture in the world environment that you brought up. And in some ways they clash, right? And then at the same time, you're like, well, they have to be useful. They're useful for my mother. They're useful for my father. They must be useful to me. But when you pull them out, all of a sudden the world was going, nah, we don't need to see all that. It's a little much. Rein it in some, right? I hope I'm describing it well. For all the immigrant children that are there, for all the ones that have so many other cultures in their family, hopefully listening to us today will help you understand that you're not alone. That's the first thing. And the book Unbound can help you find that path. Serena, you're welcome. You talk about inherited shame and inherited silence. How do people begin separating what belongs to them from what was handed to them?
Okay. I'll go back to what you just said earlier, just now, is that when you start unpacking your baggage, unpacking that emotional, or that what I actually called imma-guilt, right? This is imma-guilt. And the imma-guilt that was not mine. I felt guilty for not following the path that my parents wanted me to follow, or not living up to their standards, or feeling like a failure and not giving them the kudos for sacrificing so much as immigrants to give me a better life and all of that. So we carry that with us. And as you say, these immigrant children that don't really understand the world that their parents came from, and that their parents don't understand the world that they're growing up in. And so this is an unspoken guilt. It's an inherited shame, because following our own path feels shameful.
Mm.
I walked my own path. I woke up in a relationship, that a marriage that I really realized that wasn't really aligned to what the woman I wanted to, or I knew I could be, and
Mm.
who I was truly inside. And so for me, making that decision to leave my marriage
Mhm.
was a big decision, not in terms of necessarily between my husband at the time and I, but for mostly being this cultural shame, bringing shame to the family, bringing,
Mm.
what will my parents say? How will they feel? And of course,
Mm.
I had the conversation with my parents. I was 30, maybe 38, I think, when I got divorced. And I just said, I don't want you to think of this as a failure. And right away, my dad, he pounded his fist on the table and he said,
Mm.
you don't think a failed marriage is a failure. It's a failure. And,
Yes.
and there
Yes.
I was, that Emma guilt, that was just shoving the guilt in my backpack, my Emma guilt backpack, like full. And, it crushed me in so many ways. The heaviness that I was under um, took a lot of courage and resilience, because I used, when, you're just describing Ava's luggage, dependable, reliable, the strong one,
Mm.
productivity, control, all of this, for me, I definitely had something else. I also had this ability um, to trust that I was
Mm.
going to be okay, and to go against the grain, and to go against I was seen as very rebellious by my parents, but it's only because I really had such high agency that it made them very uncomfortable. And that high agency is really what I feel separated my older sister and me. Because my older sister, you're describing Ava, it's like, she's the strong one, she's the dependable one, she's the
Mm.
reliable one. It was like, she really took the brunt of that cultural conditioning and of that patterning.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas I, as the younger, and just a little more bold, a little more uh, out there, I guess, and courageous, to be able to walk a path that wasn't no that nobody else was on.
Mm.
And I feel that that was my work, and I was put on this planet to do that. And this book is that story. Unbound is the story, my memoir, and it is the story. Why it's called Unbound is because my mother's grandmother had her feet bound in China.
Mm. Yes.
And my grandmother escaped that. My mother escaped it. I escaped that. And what I realized was that same fear, the trepidation, the doubt, that generational trauma that we were carrying, that you talked about,
Mm-hmm.
was broken in some ways by my grandmother, because she ran away from that. It was broken a little bit in ways from my mother, because she loved us in a way that she was never loved, and broken by me in this way that I don't have a child of my own. I don't have children of my own, but I know from my niece, my sister's daughter, I was like, okay, I have to be the one to break this pattern,
Oh,
so she can
definitely.
walk freely on her own path with these unbound feet. I just really feel proud that I had the power and the resilience and the grit and all of that, and the courage to really walk a path that the path less traveled, I guess you can say.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. As someone who has found my exits in relationships, I understand the conversation with families, right? Most people can only see an end. For me, every end is a beginning, and I can't wait to run through the next door. But for the people who care about me, they're always like, "Girl, slow down, right? Don't you want to unpack this before?" And I'm like, "No, actually, no. I'm going somewhere. You may come with me." If you dare, right? So I totally understand what you went through when you're saying your father's reaction to your divorce. I get it. Been there. I understand, I have at least read or tried to expose myself in my travels, my global trotting around the world, to many different cultures, and the bounding of feet by women in the Chinese culture, glad that is over with, is to be able to escape that and pass those stories down to your future generation is absolutely, it's a wonderful moment or time in your past, your family's past, to be able to can bring forward and speak to as a part of the strength of you. So I
Mm-hmm.
applaud you in that. I really do.
Thank
Um,
you.
you're
Thanks for
welcome.
saying that. Yeah, it is. Its lineage is more powerful than we think, and it has left an imprint on us more than we really realize. And
Definitely.
and to honor that, honor the strength and the grit that I adopted and inherited from my family, and also um, let it go. Let go of that, like you said, that does not serve, that does not fit. And that's, like I said, coming back to that, unpacking the cultural things for second generation immigrant kids, or yeah, second generation immigrant kids,
Mhm. Mhm.
and first generation Americans, first
Right.
generation Canadians, 1.5 even generation kids, that are adults now. They've kind of been wearing this suit that doesn't quite fit. And like you just spoke about traveling globally, trying to learn about it. That was
Mhm.
me trying to learn about my cultures and the cultures and the roots. That I went to India and I was like, okay, but I felt, what? I'm looking for belonging. And
Yes.
I didn't find it there because, again, it's
Mhm.
still a suit that doesn't quite fit.
Fit.
They grew up there. I
Mhm.
did not. And then, knowing the not languages, and I didn't know the language and all of that.
Ah.
So there's always a piece that's missing
Mhm.
in terms of where we belong, for me anyways. And so I know that I never really had a really strong tethering or connection to my identity, because I didn't really, I kind of had so many different facets. And that's what I feel has really been a benefit to me, is that I've been able to recreate and reinvent myself
Mm.
everywhere I've gone. I've gone from different, I lived in small towns. I grew up in a big city. I
Mhm.
lived in small towns. I moved to the US, and then I'm now in Costa Rica. And everywhere I go, I feel like, okay, I can create my own world because I'm so resilient in that way.
Mhm.
And everywhere I went, there I was. My patterning of that immigrant and that forcing and that strength, quote unquote, strength that you spoke about at the very top of the call,
Mhm.
it was not strength. I realized, like, I had really pushed, I was a force. And and I really realized that true strength lives deeper. So it lives way below
Mhm.
the head. When
Yes.
we're talking and thinking and speaking and behaving from our heads, we're not wise.
Mm.
We think we're intelligent. We think we're, so strong, quote unquote, so powerful, quote unquote. But
Mhm.
true power, true feminine power, I do believe, really lives deep down and lower. And it took me 50 years to really discover it, to tap back into it,
Mhm.
to descend deep enough and pause long enough to actually source that wisdom that lived within me. And true feminine strength
Mhm.
holds. It's a holding. It can hold, it can create a nest, and it could give this nurturing energy to the people that live in this nest. So my closest people, it's like, so I
Mm.
become a caregiver now to my mother and my
Ah.
father, and they're older, and well, they're old. My dad's 91 and my mom is 86. And
Like my father says, I'm an elder, not older, just elder.
well, not, they're pretty old. and And they are elders, and and elders are wise and in their own way, and also losing their capacity that they once had creates a fear in them that we all deal with in different ways. And so this is so interesting watching my mother, with dementia and Parkinson's, and just kind of this old traumas coming up from her past. And then, of course, my dad's, his core wounding of not feeling maybe good enough or being useful, and not really knowing how to take care of my mom. So all of this is all coming up. And then my own observance of their, like them pushing care away, like their hyper independence that they had that they held tightly onto.
Yes.
And I was, for me, it's like, wow, that was a real red flag for me. And I was like, that I can carry myself through my life, and I can be super hyper independent, but that doesn't serve me. In the end of the day, at the end of my life, when I lose my capacity, and we all will at some point.
At some point.
Right. We're losing something, whatever that is. And can we be okay with that? Can we sit in that discomfort? Because it's a transition. Every transition that we go through, we've all been through transitions in our lives.
Yes.
That is not comfortable. And so can we be in that discomfort of the transition and accept it and give ourselves grace, enough grace of that feminine energy, that feminine power, that true strength to accept where we are now at this point in time, and accept and receive support. And from this, be the nest, we go back to being the nestling, the little bird in the nest, and being able to be fed by our mama bird. And so to me, that was my role. I had to reparent myself, become the mother I never had, and also be the mother, in quote unquote, to my own mother, and care for her in a way that she never received.
So Serena, in going through all that, right? And it's a journey. I tend to look at each of my journey as a chapter in my book that I'm writing of my life, right? Yes. One of the reasons why I run into each chapter, can't waiting to see what's next. What does emotional strength mean to you today versus what younger Serena thought it meant?
Exactly what I just said. To me, it means emotional strength is, it is
transition,
forgiving myself and others, accepting that this is my reality and this is their journey. The old Serena, the younger Serena, she would force her way. She would try and help somebody. She would give so much great advice, and she would want to save the person, the planet, the everything, because I somehow knew that, or felt like I could. The new Serena, the new embodied feminine Serena, has realized that each of us are on our own journey. Timing is divine, that when we are ready to receive the lesson, learn from it, grow from it, and go through the discomfort of the growing pains to transition and to change, that's all on our own timing. And nobody else can do that for us.
That is so true. Your work often frames healing as resistance. Explain that.
Yeah. I mean, healing is, I feel like if we all embraced healing, we'd all be healed. It'd be like this perfect world, and we are far from that. And so healing, to me, is, if we're resisting healing, oftentimes we'll be in a place of resistance. Like my parents, for example, they have resisted all the care that they've been given. They've resisted the the, me even wanting to write this book, like resisted vulnerability, resisted being humble in and accepting. And that resistance has really kept them from healing. And and healing their own traumas from the past so that they can actually move on with some sense of peace. And tell me if I understood
Oh,
the
you did.
question.
Trust me, you
Okay.
did.
Yeah.
Because I think in listening to you and in my own journey, what I've learned, you have to first acknowledge that something may be amiss with you.
Hmm.
If you do not acknowledge that, then you have no um, use for healing, right? So
Hmm.
what we're
Hmm.
you may be seeing, or what I've seen from people, you're trying to give out that great advice. Try this, and if you think about it, we're filling up their luggage, right? Try this. You should do this. You
Hmm.
should try that. So we are
Hmm.
actually doing what has been done to us by trying to fill their luggage with things that we just know through advice will work. But
Yeah.
if that person is saying, stop packing my luggage, I
Hmm.
don't need that from you. I don't
Yeah.
think anything is wrong with me. We see that as resistance, right?
Right.
Okay, right?
Correct. Yeah.
But for their own journey and their way of fulfilling it, they're fine. They don't
Yeah.
need, yeah, right? They do not need anybody adding anything to their luggage. They're going to exit this great creation that we're all in the way they are, with the
Yeah.
emotional fortitude that they have used to survive all these years. And what do you know that could
Right.
possibly help me now? Right.
Right.
So I say all
Okay.
that because I have one of the things I love observing is elders, right? And I try to see things from their point of view. We youngins, as they'll call it, right? Even if we're way over 50, we think we have so much advice to give, right?
Hmm.
And we want to share and help with each other. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? God knows I do it myself. But I find that I can't say I do not want these things in my luggage because they are not helpful to me, and then expect someone to take something from me and put it in
Hmm.
their luggage. Does that make sense?
Right.
They,
Yes.
they have
Beautifully
to
put.
have the
Beautifully
same,
said.
exactly. They have to have the same opportunity as I do to turn it away
Yes.
and say, I don't need that one.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. And that's how we learn. That is
Mhm.
how we learn. That's exactly what I feel like I've done in this book, is that I really wanted people to see that I didn't get to this place just like overnight.
Mhm.
It took me 50 years and many detours,
Right.
and that to get to this place. And I it was falling and picking myself back up and recreating something and allowing myself to um, fail. And
Mhm.
I love this word because the conditioning has been do not fail. I mean, it's like,
Yes.
you don't think it's fail. I mean, failing is the most, it's the F word in Asian culture for
Mm.
sure. And so for me, I had to realize that I wasn't failing, and accepting that this was not failure, this was growth. This was like, I've grown exponentially, and that's the healing.
Mm.
And I may never live to see the fruition of what I'm sharing, like
Mhm.
what you just said, like, yes, at 50 or over 50, I believe we do have something to share. We have our own experience. And that's why I wrote the book. I said, I'm going to write it from my experience.
Mhm.
And if it resonates with someone, great. I'm not here to change your trajectory of your life. I'm not here to give you, the red flags or the warning signals. If you do take those
Mhm.
and do something to change your life, great. Um, but I'm not going to shove that down your throat. So for me now, it was like, here's my story. And this is what
Mm.
I have to share because I have experience. And then take what you want and then leave behind what you don't. So that it's now everything that I offer now is that it's so less forceful. And
Mhm.
that's where I feel people have more respect. They have more like, wow, and it lands better.
Yes.
And And I said, like I said, I may not ever be here to live to see the healing that I've done. But I know I'm doing it for the next life and the next generation and the next. So may we also be those kinds of parents. And even if we don't have children of our own, but be those parents where it's not about giving our kids, telling them what they should be doing. It's allowing, even at a young age, like accepting them for who they are and what kind of person. They're not an extension of you. They are their own person. And, that's where I really had to, it took me so long to realize that and to find myself. But that's why I wasn't, I'm not going to do that to the next generation. And so allow the next generation to really find themselves and like express themselves in a way that feels fully that they can own it and that they can walk with confidence in their own skin, feel good in their own skin. And yeah, that's to me is like, like I said, we may never see it, and that's okay too.
That I get it. Serena, for the ones like us that grew up in multiculturals, right? And trying to find your way forward, or just trying to find that path that you can't seem to recognize because you don't know anyone around you that may have walked this path before. If someone listening today realizes their emotional luggage may no longer fit their life, where do you suggest they begin their new journey?
Inward. Go in. For me, I spent my entire life looking outside of myself. I traveled the world. I as a multicultural kid, as a mixed cultured kid, I was asked, what are you? My entire life. What are you? What are you? What are you?
Yeah.
And that planted a seed in my soul of not knowing who I was, thinking, because I really believed as a young girl, as I was writing my story in this book, I realized before I was had all these experiences of judgment and criticism and what are you, questioning, doubting from the outside world, I really believed I knew who I was. Like I felt like as I was very young, I was quite confident as a young girl because it's the only world I knew. And so I would just go out and I'd say, Mom, I'm going to go to journalism school. And she's like, no one on TV looks like you. And so here I am getting these seeds that are planted into my garden of like, oh, okay, nobody looks like me. So, right. So not that I could, go ahead, do it. Let's see what, it was more like doubt. And so the seeds of doubt were planted. And I want to say for mixed kids that didn't really have that beautiful, like, hey, you get to create who you want to be, because you're a mix of so many things that you actually get to create your own identity. And how beautiful is that, And I believe like a lot of the kids in like this newest generation that are out there there's so many mixed cultured kids. I think there's a term called third culture kid, because they have like mixed heritage, and then they're kind of they're creating their own third culture.
Yes.
And so we can be whoever we want to be, and finding other people. It's like now we don't even have to find people that are the same mix, as us. I feel like sometimes I've heard the term Asian and Blasian, and
right.
like there's all these terms, and I think that's cute and it's great for belonging and creating a sense of belonging and community in some ways and relatability. And we can all realize that we're all human.
Yes.
And we can all be in this mosaic of culture and nuance and humanity together. And I believe that this next generation, this newest one, I think
Yes.
that's what they're doing. And they're
Yeah.
creating platforms for it, which I'm really, really
Mhm.
excited about because for me, I feel like it's an underrepresented voice. We are the underrepresented voice. So who yelling now?
Yes.
You are creating a platform for this. Unbound, the book, has created a
Yes.
platform for that.
Mhm.
There's so many retreats happening and because of social media, thanks to
Yes.
social media, there's a lot of people connecting with others that they would never normally even perhaps even meet and get to know. And I think there's a movement happening towards let's be because let's do this together. Let's be no matter what we are, we
Mhm.
have experienced one very common innate need, and that is this need to belong.
Yes. I
And
totally agree with you on that.
and so
The,
let's create the belonging.
yes, I see what the 50 years ago, it was a struggle, right? You are the oddity. Now there's a
Yes.
community, like you say, that is growing, and they're showing you, hey, I love the food from this culture and this culture. We can smash them together, even the music,
Yes.
and look at us
Yeah.
go, right? So
Yes.
so now it's
Yes.
being seen in a whole different light. They're pulling strength from who they are in different percentages and thinking they have to choose one or the other. Um,
Yes.
when I wrote my
Love that.
first when I wrote my first book, And Then Thoughts, it's a book of poetry, and I was trying to step through a door towards myself, towards me. And during this conversation, several things you said, which I actually wrote a poem on, no matter where I went, here I was there.
Mm.
The globe trotting and trying to meet all these different people around the world and their cultures, right? And one of the poems I wrote was called Mimic. I mimicked different things in different culture, trying to see, is this me? Did I find
Yeah.
myself here? Is this the dance for me? Is this the food for me? Is this the laughter for myself? Right? So I
Oh.
found myself doing that also. So my final question for you today, in your
Mm.
book, Unbound, if you had to direct someone who has gone through the journey you have gone through to a specific area in your book, say, read this chapter and you shall
Mhm.
find yourself,
Mm.
what would it be? I said, you're going to have to read the whole book, but,
Yeah,
you
there's
know,
so many. There's
uh-huh,
so many. And I've actually had a lot of beautiful feedback from people,
hmm
saying like, ah, that was me. And okay, I'll say one of them,
hmm
the chapter, it's chapter 13, and it was, really, I wrote this book for women and girls. And who came to me, second generation kids and mixed culture kids and all of that. And who came to me was a white middle class male
hmm
from the Midwest.
hmm
And here I was. He's like, that was me in the car with my head on the steering wheel going, oh my, like what's happening? What's going on? Come on, God, give me a sign or whatever it was, like
hmm
that was him. And
hmm
so what I thought people would resonate with, it it goes beyond. It just runs the gamut. I have young girls young women or older women even who come to me and they're like, that was me when, you know, um, you're like turning into a woman. You're becoming you're a teenager and entering womanhood, and you're
hmm
kind of going through this whole experience of getting to understand your body and the changes that are happening. And they're like, wow, that was me. And we didn't talk about it, right? Because it was culturally not inappropriate to talk about those things.
hmm
And and I wanted to talk about it. I'm very vulnerable in the book because I know that it is an unspoken conversation that has been buried in people's psyche and in people's bodies for a long time. That's the shame, that is like, that doesn't need to be there. I think there's women who really relate to the last chapter of the book, where it was like, wow, they met, or not the last chapter, but the second last chapter of being being a stepmom. And like, I didn't even know that role existed until I was in it. And I really didn't even know what to Google, because I was like, something is, I don't know what to do here. And I felt like a failure. And I met so many women who were in the same boat as me. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a thing. There's a term for this. And, so to be able to relate to that. And I've had people reach out to me and say, wow, I didn't know you were a stepmom. And now I'm a stepmom, and I'm really going through it. And so being able to relate and to glean just a glimpse of not feeling alone in this path and on this journey. And because in those moments, you feel so alone. Yes. And, it's like you are struggling, and the struggle is real, whether you're in the car or whether you're in, with your head on the steering wheel, or whether you're in a home, in someone else's home that you don't feel like you belong, and you're being, ostracized or whatever it is. And so all of the things is we need community. And that to me, that's the final step, and the idea of surrendering to this being interdependent on each other, not hyper dependent, not codependent, but interdependent on each other for community. Because this is how we started. Tribes moved together. The nomads moved together. We were better together. We knew we were stronger, this word strength, together than we are alone. We cannot do this alone. We cannot do life alone. That's a myth. I think that it's created, if we think about the cultures back, my parents' cultures, it's like there was always mothers, grandmothers, grandfathers, uncles, aunts, and they're, everyone's children, and everyone kind of took care of the children. It takes a village. And for me, I live alone in the jungle, really alone in the jungle, really. And it took me saying, okay, so now how do I build this community and really allow myself to lean on a community? Because we often isolate ourselves and we think we're the only ones going through this. And I'm like, no way. This book, Unbound, is to say, you are not alone.
There you go. I think that is a good takeaway. You're not alone. Serena reached in and she told us that when she unpacked her luggage, she found nothing in there fit being a stepmother. Of all the things that she had piled in, nothing in there fit. So she had to adapt and come up with something new. She also shared with us that if you're going to begin this journey, you probably want to spend some time looking inward. Now, a lot of us were taught, it was placed in our luggage, that we should look outward, right, for all our answers to life. But here she is telling you, and I will second that. Take that journey inward. You're going to be surprised at the wonderful answers that come to you. I want to say thank you so much for being with us today on Who Yelling Now? And as a new yeller, I expect you to come back anytime. Just send me a note and we can do this again. I enjoyed talking to you so much. I find that we have a lot in common, and our journey seemed to have been walking along the same road, but we did not notice each other, Serena.
Yes.
We're going to correct that. No worries.
I love it. I love it. More to come.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You really gave us a lot to think about on strength, emotional fortitude, and adapting to different situations, and understanding that how you came about being does not mean you have to stay there. You can create your own path, take from others on your journey and move forward and create a path for someone else. That's what Serena did. She created a path and then she wrote a book on it and said, here's what I've learned. So as a fellow author and someone who's trying to do the same, Serena, thank you. Much success to you. My dearest listeners, I hope you enjoyed our time with Serena. Here is a poem I call Fortitude. When I was young, they handed me heavy things and called me strong. A silence, a disappointment, an expectation, a grief, a history that arrived before me. Carry it carefully, carry it proudly, carry it quietly. And so I did. My shoulders widened, my smile sharpened, my voice learned how to disappear. People admired my strength, not realizing I had simply forgotten how to put things down. My friends, we called it strength. Perhaps we misunderstood it. Perhaps strength was never carrying more. Perhaps strength was learning what to unpack. And perhaps becoming yourself requires you to stop carrying every version of yourself other people packed for you. I once described my first book, And Then Thoughts, as a collection of poems as I stepped through a door to greet myself. I stand by that description because I have met myself several times, several different versions, and I continue to run towards myself. Maybe that is strength too. The willingness to meet yourself honestly. I am Olga Foreign. This has been Who Yelling Now? See you in the next episode.